Alright, today we're talking Mad Magazine, and when I'm talking Mad Magazine, I'm talking about Spy vs. Spy. And you may be wondering, what's Spy vs. Spy? Well, Spy vs. Spy was this black and white comic strip drawn and illustrated by Antonio Prohiez. Antonio Prohiez was a Cuban-American cartoonist. He worked for Mad Magazine, and his most famous cartoon strip was Spy vs. Spy. He started working for Mad Magazine in July of 1960, and he started the comic strip Spy vs. Spy in 1961, and he retired in 1987. He worked for Mad Magazine for 26 years. Antonio Prohiez was born on January 17, 1921, and sadly passed away February 24, 1998. Antonio Prohiez's artwork still lives on in Mad Magazine today through reprinted magazines and all the specials that they do every single month. But since his passing, Mad Magazine hired a new artist, Peter Cooper, who still draws Spy vs. Spy. But today, we're going to be taking a closer look at Mad Magazine's special collector's edition, Spy vs. Spy: The Big Blast. The magazine starts off with a short little biography drawn by a good friend of Antonio Prohiez, Sergio Aragonés, another world-famous Mad Magazine artist. And then we are given an introduction written by John Ficarra, the editor of this magazine. This introduction is just basically a little history lesson about how Mad Magazine got its color. The color of Mad Magazine started in December of 2000 with issue 400 being the very first magazine where they were full on color. Before this, Mad Magazine was a completely black and white magazine. But with the 20th century coming to an end and the 21st century coming to a start, the world had changed. Everything was in color, TV, and magazines. So, with the 21st century coming to a start, Mad Magazine started to print all the rest of their magazines in full color. And, to this day, they are still a fully colored magazine. In all of the Spy vs. Spy comics that you see in the magazine were all at one point black and white. All of the Spy vs. Spy comics that you see in this magazine, all of them are reprinted material from past magazine issues. As we get to the end of the magazine, on the very last page, you can see a Spy vs. Spy figure designed by the family of Antonio Prohiez. The figure portrays Antonio Prohiez as a Spy vs. Spy character, with his signature cigarette in hand and a pen and a piece of paper at his drawing board. Now that we're done talking about the magazine, let's talk about some other Spy vs. Spy merchandise. Spy vs. Spy is arguably Mad Magazine's most popular and iconic comic strip in the magazine. But unlike all of the other comic strips in the magazine, Spy vs. Spy has gotten plenty of merchandise including action figures, video games, and cartoon adaptations in the Mad TV show. Spy vs. Spy has had video games for the Game Boy Color, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Xbox and PlayStation 2. The Xbox and PlayStation 2 games of Spy vs. Spy are the ones that really shocked me because I had no idea that these two had games for modern day consoles. But I already knew that the Nintendo Entertainment System had already had a game based on Spy vs. Spy. This is a 8-bit game traditional for the Nintendo Entertainment System. But surprisingly, my very first exposure to Spy vs. Spy was in the Mad Show that aired on Cartoon Network. I loved these cartoons growing up as a kid because these cartoons were fun, the animation was simple, it's in that classic black and white style, and they also altered from animation to stop motion animation. In my opinion, Spy vs. Spy will always and forever be a big part of my childhood and Mad Magazine. It's Mad Magazine's most popular comic strip that they have in the magazine, and, in my opinion, the most iconic.